Hello world! WayofTime here, bringing to you another episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentaries. So today we're going to be talking about a new system that's still a bit in flux and a bit work in progress, but I feel that there's enough to it that I should at least, get people well informed what the heck is actually happening. And I'm just gonna grab this. Don't mind me, I'm just doing random stuff. Just putting a bunch of these demonic crystallizers on the ground, but you don't have to worry about that. So we're not gonna look at that yet. First things first, there were a lot of rituals that were added to blood magic in Dash 18. And I think I might as well at least talk about them quickly. Volcanos Phrygius basically is a ritual that will allow you to create cobblestone, and it will have other methods to, do other stuff later, like obsidian creation, etc. This is more of a convenience ritual. It's not really anything. Basically, a lot of the rituals that were in Sanguimancy in 1.7.10 have been integrated into the main mod. So you're going to see stuff like Ritual of the Filler, which fills in... Let's just show this shape. Oh, also, when you hover over the Master Ritual Stone with your Diviner out, you'll be able to see where the Ritual Stones are going to be placed when you right-click. So, for instance, if we were to look at this ritual, it's like that. If we get the Timberman... Ritual of the Timberman cuts trees in an area and puts the contents on a chest on top of it. The Filler takes blocks inside of it. Blocks that are on top of the Master Ritual Stone. Blocks that are in the chest on top of the Master Ritual Stone. Let's actually get this right way. And places them in the defined area here. We also have Hymn of Siphoning, which takes... I think it's actually this big. It's about that big. Which takes fluid in a large area around it and puts it in the tank on top of it. The tank on top of it does require at least one bucket of the liquid that you want. So, if you want to siphon up only lava, you're going to need a bucket of lava inside of the tank you're trying to work with. Assembly of the High Altar. As you see, it's big, and it's actually a lot bigger than this. Basically, it's a convenience ritual, nothing more, nothing less. And if you put a chest on top of the Master Ritual Stone, with all of the contents required to make a tier whatever altar, it'll construct it for you. So that's a nifty one that if you want... I don't think it takes away other blocks, because that might get a little messy. But anyways, the one I really want to talk about is the Gate of the Fold. And we'll put it like this, because the Gate of the Fold is really, really complicated. But easy enough once you get to know it. So let's see, I am set so that it's a north direction, and I'll place this here. So the Gate of the Fold is basically a gate which allows you to teleport to different locations, and the teleportation depends on a specific key that you set for the particular gate. So if we were to activate this ritual, as it is right now, I'm probably going to need to get a Diviner. This would be a good time for... Do I actually have the blood magic commands in this? Blood magic, let's see. I'm not going to bother. Anyways, if you travel through the portals as they are right now, it'll teleport you at a cost of 1,000 LP. Now this works interdimensionally, so it'll cost 10,000 LP, so 10 times the cost if you try to travel interdimensionally. But any distance, it'll cost 1,000 LP, and you'll have a nice portal in order to work with. Let's actually get a lever And you'll see why in a second. We're going to deactivate it like so. So this can be deactivated, and if you try to enter, obviously nothing's going to happen. And if you reactivate it, something's obviously going to happen. Boom! It works. So, I was mentioning a specific key early on. Oh, and yes, it does work with items. See? There we go. So I mentioned a specific key earlier. So the key is set by two things. One, it's set by whoever actually activates the ritual. So for instance, this character's name is Blood Magic Dev because I'm in my dev workplace. And since this ritual stone is activated by the same character as the one who activated that, they're linked together because of another key, but I'll get to that in a second. So if you were to have multiple people with multiple gate rituals and they were empty, configured exactly like this, they will not link together. You need to have the same person linking the two rituals together in order to create a link between them. So, second thing is that there's another key part. So you can set a secondary key, or rather it is set, by placing blocks inside of a frame around the ritual. So for instance, if we have this is going to be a different portal location than that one. Because that one is completely empty. There's nothing on the edges or on top of it. But this one has stuff in the edges. I believe that the region of influence is so. You have this area right here. I'm not going to be able to get to the lever. And you have all the way up, and I believe the corner counts like so. So if you place any block around this edge, it'll combine them all in like a long string, get a value for it, and now this is a specific key for the ritual. So if we were to deactivate this ritual and reactivate it and try to enter through it, it does not link to that ritual anymore. And if we were to basically get the same configuration for this one, and I'll talk about why we have to... Actually, let's talk about that now. So, you saw that I actually flipped the lever in order to, well, deactivate it, then reactivate it. If you activate a ritual, it'll grab the key by all the blocks, and it'll hold on to whatever key it was when it's activated. If you deactivate and reactivate the ritual through redstone or just activating it, it will reset its stored key. So if you don't deactivate it, set its key, and then do whatever, you're able to keep the link without having to keep those blocks. So let's do that. So now that's set to that particular key. Probably better if I go like this. This one's set to the default key still. And if we activate it, don't think that'll work. And if we do that, we can now go through it. But if we change even one block in this, we cannot go through. Now this is interesting for if you wanted to make some sort of nexus. So if you have some sort of nexus where the snow blocks are the main thing, and if you were to replace one of the blocks like I did so right there, and deactivate and reactivate it, it'll set it to a different location. So now I'll still be able to go through. It's a bit finicky with all of this stuff. I don't think I actually reactivated that. There we go. Have to reactivate both portals in order to do that. So let's set up something that people can toy with. So let's say we had a few different portals we want to be able to get to, and we have our main Nexus portal right here. This is all snow, and we want to be able to also get to all snow and one grass block. So that's easy. In order to get to the all snow plus grass block, we basically, let's do this easier. We deactivate the ritual, replace its block, reactivate it, go through, now we're there. Come on, go back. There's a bit of a portal delay, which is because of vanilla, which doesn't allow you to actually go quickly. This is helpful because if you get stuck in a portal loop, it's not very fun. So now if we want to get to the snow portal, we can deactivate it, reactivate it after placing the snow, and now we're at the full snow portal. So we could, in theory, make a nexus like this. You would have to make something smart to make sure you can guarantee always that you have a return journey, or you can just do a one-to-one portal interaction. Basically, it's up to you on that type of stuff. So, I think that's basically all the behavior stuff that I need to cover with this. It should handle directions. However, you're going to have to be mindful of which ritual stones you're placing the blocks around it. So, for instance, if this was rotated 180 degrees, it might be that this won't be the exact same. Yeah. Yep, that's basically, yep. Okay, so let's move onward to something a bit more interesting. Actually, I think that's pretty interesting, but it's not the main reason for this DevCom. No, the main reason for this DevCom is demonic will crystals. So, in Blood Magic, currently, as it was before, you have mainly, well, in the 1.8.9 branch, we have rituals, we have the Blood Altar construction, and we have the Hellfire Forge, and that's basically it. Other than the obvious systems like the, yes, there is a blood tank, but it's very work in progress. Don't even bother trying to play with that. I don't know how well it works. So we have item routing, we have the living armor, we have the health, the sentient armor, etc., etc. Very fun. Ooh, I actually don't think I looked at the new displacement rune texture. Kind of looks cool, honestly. Like a water drop or an upside down heart. Depends which way is the correct way. Yeah, it's a water drop. Anyway, so how it is that you go out to battle, get your demonic will by battling monsters. They drop a bunch of demonic will when you kill them with a sentient sword, and all that fun stuff. Sentient sword is nice and powerful, gets much more powerful the more, let's see, let's get a Grand Tartaric Gem. The more will you have in your inventory, it gets a lot more powerful. I think I need to add a bit more once you have the Grand Tartaric Gem, but that's something else we can worry about later. And that was basically the progression. Other than crafting stuff like the input routing node, there's not much use for it. This is where everything changes. Well, we're going to start adding more and more uses for the demonic will, but in order to do that, we're going to need to be able to create demonic will in some sort of automatic method. And that is where demon will crystal clusters come into play. So let's start with a new system. What you need is not click on that. You're going to need a few things to start off with, especially. You're going to need a demon crucible, which requires a cauldron, some stone, a diamond, and lapis, and a minimum of 400 will, and it costs 100 in order to make. So this is basically tier 3 Tartaric Gem level. And you're also going to need a demon crystallizer, which requires a Hellfire Forge, which requires iron and gold, etc., lapis, stone, and glass. And that's going to require 500 will minimum, and drains 100. Pricing might increase for this. At least the minimum will probably be increased, but we're not going to worry about that. And also for funsies, let's get a Hellfire Forge and move over to a different chunk. And you'll see why that is important in a second. So, we all know how Thaumcraft aura works. Let's not kid ourselves. The idea is kind of similar to Thaumcraft aura, but it's done in a different way. Yeah, you walk away. Anyways, so it's done in a different way. So currently, demonic will is basically an imprint of the will from some sort of demonic entity. Stop looking at me. Some sort of demonic entity on a mob. So zombies, skeletons, creepers, etc. They drop this essence and you collect them in Tartaric gems, use them using sentient armor and weaponry, and then basically that's all you have. Now what this does is basically, let's put this in a different way. You have the Demon Crucible here, and it's basically a nice basin in order to burn the demonic will and release it into the air around you. What this does is it takes this essence of an entity, releases it into the air for you to be able to manipulate it and cause several interesting interactions with the world. Those interactions aren't currently implemented. There's something that's going to be called demonic inversion, in where you have enough will inside of the air to cause effects in the environment. Kind of like Thaumcraft taped, but it's going to be a lot more manageable than that, unless you get it to be very unmanageable, which, if you have enough, will be unmanageable. So, some of the benefits for infusing the demonic will into the aura, or air. I'm probably going to keep on saying aura because it is similar to Thaumcraft aura, but in any case, one benefit of this is that the reach for your demonic will is a lot greater. So, I'm going to put this Grand Tartaric Gem inside the Crucible. There's going to be burning particles probably later on once I finish this. There's going to be an interface to upgrade the Crucible with a bunch of upgrades. They'll be kind of floating around it, but I digress. So you can see that a bit of its demonic will was infused into the air, and also part of the interface will be tracking how much demonic will is inside of the chunk that the Demon Crucible is in. So, as I alluded to, demonic will, unless you were to do something to it, will stay inside of the chunk that the Demon Crucible emitted it into. So this means that if you were to have a one chunk base, you're going to be perfectly fine, but the concentration might be high. Currently the Crucible is set so that it will only allow 100 units of Demon Will into the aura at once. Now, one immediate use for this is if we slap down a Hellfire Forge and get a Tartaric Gem. Let's get a common one and throw it in here. It'll start to get filled slowly by draining the demonic will inside the aura into the Hellfire Forge. Now if we were to move this so that we're outside the chunk, I'm looking at those chunk coordinates in the, well, middle left, right there. Right now, we're now in a different chunk, so if I place this down and put that there, it's not going to infuse, but if I put it in here instead, it's going to infuse. Simple enough. Now, if I were to want to move this around, I'm going to need other stuff, but we'll get to that in a second. The second thing we're going to need is a Demon Crystallizer. Demon Crystallizer, I already showed you the recipe, and what this does is it takes the demonic will inside of the aura and crystallizes it into a tangible substance. So instead of just being contained in a Tartaric Gem, you can see it's crystalline, etc. It's basically a crystal that holds onto the demonic energy. This crystallizes that imprint of demonic will, the essence of the entity into the world and creates a block on top of it. Now, this process does take a bit of time. I think it's set to maybe 50 seconds or other stuff, but let's put a few of these crystallizers down. You're probably going to want a bunch of them because what this also does, okay, we got a demon will crystal cluster. If we were to break this with, say, a pickaxe, currently it's set to stone. I honestly do not know why that is. Game mode 0. If we just break this, we get an untextured, basically, demon will crystal. The uses of this is it's required now to make a greater tartaric gem. You need a weak blood shard, demon will crystal, a demonic slate, and a common tartaric gem with the normal crafting in order to get a greater tartaric gem. This also saps 100 demon will from the air in order to crystallize this. And you can also see this is just a demon will crystal. And there's no randomness to the grow time, and that is going to definitely change. I just need to figure out the best way in order to do that. Because of statistics, if you were to add like Gaussian distribution, etc., it's not going to be effective. So let's wait for one more batch, and then we'll wait and see what happens. Because hopefully it appears here to aid in my next explanation. And here's our next batch, and ooh, we actually got lucky with this batch. You can see that we have the base demon will clusters, but we also have two different types here. If you press F3, for some reason Wayla doesn't work with this, you can see over here that the type is a steadfast demon will one, and we also have a destructive. So demon will now has 5 different types of crystals. So if you want to think of it this way, there's different types of will, and by having it emitted into the air, different types of will tend to cluster together into these, well, into their various types. There's 4 unique types and the default. There's obviously demon will crystal, which is the default type. There's corrosive, destructive, vengeful, and steadfast. So we can see we got the destructive here, and we also have the steadfast. So this basically means like very damaging is the corrosive. Like if you want to think of it like a Final Fantasy 13 terms, it's like a saboteur. We also have destructive, which is high damage. Vengeful, you can think of it as purposefully seeking out a target, and steadfast is trying to defend from incoming attacks. Now that type of explanation basically alludes to other things that I plan, like having sentient armor have different types depending on what type of demon will you have in your possession. But anyways, breaking them, you can get the different crystals, and if you check the uses, you can see that if you have 4 of the demon will crystals and a minimum of 1200 will, it takes 100, and you can get a demon will crystal cluster. Why would you want to do this? For one, when you break the tables, they just break off, so you won't be able to move them around. So if you want them in custom positions, you're going to want to create your own crystal clusters and move them around. And another thing is that let's get our Grand Tartaric Gem out of our inventory. Wow, we really took a lot because it takes 100 will in order to randomly generate. Oh, by the way, these unique crystals, there's only a 10% chance that the Demon Crystallizer will create them. And there's 4 different types, so basically if you're looking for a different type of crystal, it's going to be 2.5% chance in order to actually get that. So let's look at some of the pre-grown crystals. Demon will crystals will grow a lot faster in an area with high demon will. In fact, they probably won't grow at all if you put them in an area that doesn't have demon will. And if we have a Tartaric gem that has more than 1024, basically means you need a greater Tartaric gem, you're able to right click on them and just get the crystals off of them instead of having to manually break them, allowing you to farm these for your convenience. Now, farming them, why would we want to farm them? Well, it's basically a cyclical process. If we were to get a hopper, for instance, because that would make this a lot easier to demonstrate. Let's get this and a Tartaric gem. Just take the Demon Will and Air. Gonna want another one. So got all the Demon Will. If we were to put these crystals inside of the crucible, they'll drain for about 10 Demon Will each. And thus slowly fill other Tartaric gems using Hellfire Forge. Or if you put a block of redstone underneath the Demon Crucible, it'll be able to fill a Tartaric gem that is inside of it. But if you want to just use it for crafting, it's a lot easier to do this. And the reason why there's 0.22 left instead of a full number is because it started growing more crystals. And it looks like almost all of them actually grew. So just a reminder, you need at least 1024 Demon Will in order to harvest the crystals. And obviously, once again, well, maybe not obviously, but if you check the uses for these, you'll be able to make the Corrosive Will crystal clusters. And just going to go through the numbers because people generally like numbers. The Demon Will crystals take 5 Demon Will in the air in order to make, or if it's a unique type, it requires 5 Demonic Will if you manage to infuse its type into the air. You need a minimum of 100 of that type in order for it to infuse properly. Or, and this is big or, if you do not have 100 inside of the air, it'll take 50 Demon Will of the default type. So just a numbers game. If you get 10 crystals worth, or maybe 11 crystals worth into the air, you'll be able to grow the unique types. And these unique types are going to have much more uses. For instance, one of the main uses for them later on, as in not implemented whatsoever, oh, I actually have it shown over here, is that these will basically be the new way of the reagent system. By placing crystals around the ritual, somehow, you'll be able to allow the ritual to take Demon Will from the air in order to increase its efficiencies or cause interesting effects. For instance, if you were to add the destructive effect to the magnetism ritual, this is the magnetism, right? Right. Yeah. If you were to add the destructive crystal effect, you'll be able to go a lot faster, but the corrosive may make it so that your range is a lot bigger. So there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that's basically, I alluded to the fact that the Demon Crucible only works in the given chunk. Time, set, day, professionalism at its best. So in order to move the Demon Crucible Demon Will into surrounding chunks, you're going to need a pylon. A demon pylon, a pyloness. Yeah, PU definitely is pylon. Demon pylon. So Demon Pylon has a simple recipe. It needs one of the Demon Crystals. I believe it can be any type, though for some reason it's not showing as such in the NAI. Probably something I can easily remedy. Anyways, it requires 50 will in order to create, and you can put it in a different chunk. So for instance, we had this example where this wasn't filling at all, even when there's a full Tartaric gem inside of it. This one's empty. If we were to put a Demon Pylon inside of this chunk, I said if we were to put a Demon Pylon inside this chunk, there we go. We can start to see that it is filling up. That is because this Demon Pylon, if you were to think of like pressure, this is a high pressure system, since there's a lot of Demon Will in here, and it'll move towards this chunk if there is a low enough demon will in this chunk. So let's give an example. If there's no draining device in any side, and this was 100 will inside this chunk to start with, it will even out to 50-50. Now this works by the demon pylon looks to its surrounding chunks, its immediate surrounding chunks, so meaning north, south, east, west. It does not look at the corners and checks their demon will and then tries to pull demon will until it cannot pull from the surrounding chunks. So it only goes from high to low. If that's at 10 will and this is 90 will, it will not go into this, so there won't be 100 will in this chunk. Also, if that's 10 and 90 in this chunk, this will not go into this chunk. So it's a one-way valve, but it's a pressure valve, so that it will only go, well, one way. So if you were to want to have like a big line of demon will going over here, that is possible. And then we'll be able to have Hellfire Forge, just having a lot of fun. Yay! So, although there are probably quite a few tweaks that need to be done to the system, I think it is stable enough that people should be able to at least get started with it, see how it goes, see if it's any fun, and all that other stuff. There are probably a few problems, balance issues. The balance issues are probably down to the fact that, well, the Demon Crucible currently you can't really upgrade it, but that is definitely planned. Need to figure out a good way to get that. And I also need textures apart from these big rectangles that are the demon crystals. Here, have some crystals! Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentaries. If you like what you see, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to future episodes. Guess there is too much will in the air for this. WayofTime here, signing off. Have a wonderful day. Yay. Ah.